Hello everybody, Jennifer Maker here. It's a beautiful day to combine some of my most popular projects, 3D paper letters and paper flowers. Now, since I shared the 3D paper letters collection earlier this year, many of you have posted beautiful projects that you've created with them. I've seen you spell your names, loved ones' initials, and even your favorite seasons. And you've added some stunning personalized decorations. I am super blown away by your talent. I love all your photos. Thank you. Now, in the original paper letter tutorial, I suggested adding paper flowers to your letters, and that has been a really popular idea. So today, I'm going to show you how to make gorgeous floral letters. These flower-filled letters are really on trend and the perfect decor for many rooms in your home. So come with me to my craft table and we will make some lovely letters together. Paper flowers are so beautiful and easy to make, and they go perfectly with 3D paper letters like this letter G. Today I'm going to show you some of my favorite types of flowers to decorate your 3D paper letters with. Now, the materials and supplies are pretty simple, and I'm going to share a few extras for the advanced versions, so stay tuned for that for sure. All right, so very first thing we need is high quality cardstock. It's super important. I use 65-pound cardstock for both my letters and my flowers. Now, some crafters like to use 80 or even 110-pound paper for the letters, but it really depends on your preference. We need a good balance of sturdy and flexible, but you should use what works best for you. And I always prefer the solid core cardstock for flowers so you don't see any white on the edges. See how it's all just one color? Now, good adhesives also really help, so I used my favorite Bearly Art Precision Craft Glue. This stuff is amazing, and I also used a little hot glue. Now, for the basic 3D letters, we'll use the usual variety of tools with a few additions. I suggest plastic bags, and you'll want a quilling tool like this. Or if you're feeling resourceful, you can make your own quilling tool using my easy tutorial. You can find it at jennifermaker.com/make-DIY quilling tool. And I'm also going to show you how to make a version with silk flowers using just the letters bottom layer like this. It's kind of shaped like a bouquet. For that version, you're going to need some floral foam, an appropriate knife, wire cutters, and a mix of faux flowers in addition to the other tools. And a self-healing mat and some butcher paper will also help with the cleanup. Now, I cut my cardstock for both the letters and the flowers using my Cricut Maker 3, but you can use an original maker or a machine from the Explore series. A green standard grip machine mat works for both. Now, the creases in my 3D paper letters can be made with a single scoring wheel or a scoring stylus in one of the other machines that's other than the Maker, right? However, I'm going to show you how to avoid dealing with score lines and extra tools altogether, and all you'll need is the fine point blade, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Now, this project involves a lot of cutting, but it's so worth the time. Before you start, you might want to review my tips for cleaner cuts to get the best results. You can find that over on my blog at jennifermaker.com/cricut-cutting-problems. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I recommend planning your project a bit in advance. For example, today I want to decorate the word rose, as I've done here, with paper flowers to display on a shelf, like behind me. I'll cut the letters first and then decide what flowers I want to add. So I recommend you cut and assemble a few flowers and decorate just one letter to see how that looks. That will give you an idea of how many flowers you'll need for your desired look. And you don't have to stick to the plan completely, but it will save you time and materials if you plan just a bit. But maybe you don't want to put the letters on a shelf. Maybe you want to hang them on a wall like this, or even on a door, or decorate a table for a special occasion. Decide early and keep your goal in mind while assembling and decorating. Having a plan will ensure you don't put flowers on the bottom of a centerpiece or make a wall decoration that's too heavy to hang. Okay? Now, I'm really excited to get started, but first, just a reminder to stick around until the end for even more ideas and making super fun gifts out of these cool letters. Okay, let me show you where to get my free design files, and then we will start crafting. Step 1, get my free designs. First, let's get the free letter and flower files. Go to jennifermaker.com/389 and look for libraries in the red bar at the top. And then either click Get a Password if you don't yet have one, or click Enter the library. There are 2 design files to get. Number 389 has the flowers, and number 375 has the 3D letters. You can find the designs on the page by searching the page for the design number, and then click each one to download zip files with SVG files for cutting on a Cricut or another cutting machine, DXF files, and printable PDFs for cutting by hand. I'm going to show you how to cut these files on a Cricut cutting machine. Let's start with the 3D letters. There are lots of files in the SVG folder, so let's decide which to use. I've included versions of each letter, number, and special character that you can cut and crease with just a fine point blade, and they are all located in the No Score Tool Needed SVG folder. I want to use just my blade today to keep it simple, so I'll select letters from that folder. I find this method much easier than using the scoring tool, and I think you will too, but they do take a bit longer to cut, just so you know. I've also included scoreline versions if you want to use a scoring tool instead. If so, use files from that folder and follow the directions over on my original tutorial at jennifermaker.com/3dpaperletters. And then upload the letters that you want to make to Cricut Design Space. Step 2, prepare the 3D paper letters for cutting. To start, add your first letter to your canvas in Cricut Design Space. As mentioned, I'm cutting the letters to spell rose, R-O-S-E, so I'm going to start with the letter R. I recommend preparing and cutting your letters one at a time so you can keep all of the pieces straight. You can zoom out to see all of the design by clicking on the minus sign on the lower left. This is what my R design looks like on my canvas. I know it's a lot of pieces, but don't worry. I've designed each letter with different colors to make it easier to identify the pieces during assembly. The top pieces of the box are yellow with green for the accent pieces. Their tabs have straight edges. The bottom pieces of the box are orange with teal for the accent pieces, and their tabs are curved. Now you may notice that there are small shapes cut out of some of the letters' tabs. We'll use these to glue the correct pieces together later. Now, since we're using the No Score Tool version, we don't have to change anything. The Cricut will cut dashed lines just like you see on the canvas to help you with folding, but the pieces will stay together. Our simple letter is ready to cut out. Step 3, cut out the 3D paper letter. Now remember, I suggested only cutting one letter at a time to avoid mixing up your pieces. So with your first letter prepared on the canvas, make sure the correct machine is listed and then click Make It in the upper right corner. I'm going to show you the process with R. If you're prompted, select On Mat and then click Continue. Now review your mats, and if you see any issues, cancel the cut and return to the canvas to try again. For my project, R has 5 mats. I'm going to use one color for the box sections and another for the accents, but cutting them separately will help me keep everything straight. When everything looks good, click Continue. On the next screen, select your material settings. I'll select medium cardstock, 80 pound, with more pressure for clean cuts. Now, some machines cut differently, so if you have trouble, try the cardstock for intricate cuts material setting instead. If you're using the same materials throughout and the Remember Material Settings box is available, click it to save some time. And make sure your Cricut standard fine point blade in clamp B is clean. Once the cut is complete, press the flashing Load/Unload button to remove the mat from the machine. Flip the mat over on your work surface and then slightly bend the mat back to help release the cardstock. A good way to keep track of what goes with what is to put each layer in its own plastic bag. If necessary, use a scraper tool to help remove any tiny pieces left on the mat. And then repeat for your other letters using the same settings and methods. Step 4. Assemble the 3D paper letters. Now that all of our letters have been cut, it's time to put them together. Let's start with a box top for the letter R. Remember, the box top includes pieces from the yellow and green mats. The box top pieces also have sharp corners for the tabs. Get these pieces along with a scraper tool and some craft glue. The exterior of each piece is the side that was face up during the cutting process. If you look closely, the cuts look sharper on this side versus the back. You will never attach pieces to each other on the exterior. Start by folding all of the dashed cut lines. I like to use my scraper tool for a nice sharp fold. A credit card or gift card also works great. Now see the shapes on the tabs? We'll use them to find which side pieces connect to each other. Place the top R piece face down on your work surface. It will look backwards, but that's how we want it. Now let's start with the counter, which is the centerpiece in the R's top. This piece curves, so we'll learn how to do that. Grab the small piece that has one tab with a circle, one with a triangle, and a blank tab in the middle. Add glue to the blank tab and place it on the straight edge of the counter. Now take the short piece that has the matching circle and triangle wedge tabs. Add glue to the tab with the triangle and line it up along the top of the counter. Add a bit of glue to the original triangle tab's front and adhere it to the straight edge of the new counter piece. The wedge tabs will help curve the paper around the counter's shape. I like to add glue to 2 tabs at a time, stick them to the R, and work around the curve slowly. Make sure the cardstock aligns to the inside curved edge so the exterior will be nice and smooth. When you get to the other end of the piece, add glue to the tab with a circle and glue it behind the end of the piece that we just finished curving. Let's add the piece that goes at the top of the R next, since it has another curve. Find the piece with a long tab with a square and a side tab with a slit. Add glue to the tab with a square attached to the top of the R. Place the straight end of the new piece on the glue. The tabs with squares should be adjacent to each other. Now add glue to the long tab with the square and align it to the top edge of the R. Just like we did with the regular counter piece, add glue to 2 tabs at a time and align them to the edge of the R. Slowly work around the curve. The tab with the slit will end where the letters curve and angled leg meet. Find the next piece with the plus sign and X tabs. Glue the plus sign tab to the bottom of the letter's straight leg, lining up the matching tab. Continue with the X tab running down the straight leg. Find the long piece that has an X tab at one end and a slit on a wedge at the end. And here's a tip on curves. If you glue the wedge tabs close to each other or even overlapping, the curve will get tighter. If you leave more space between the wedges, the curve will be gentler. Since the angled leg of the letter R has gentle curves, your tabs won't be as close together as they were in other areas. Take your time and glue them a few at a time. Now repeat the same steps to make the box bottom. Remember, the R will face the correct way during assembly this time because it's the bottom of the box, so it's the opposite. Once the box is complete, you can add the accents if you're using them, of course. They're different sizes, so I find it easiest to pick one to start with and then work around the letter. And here is my finished R. If you had trouble with any of these techniques, That's totally okay. It's a learning process. I'll show you a few more examples, but for additional tips, visit jennifermaker.com/3D paper letter tips. All right, now let's make the letter O. Take the pieces for the top of the O box and fold each on the dashed cut lines. Place the top O face down on your workspace with the flatter section at the bottom. Just like the R, let's start with the counter, which is the long piece with lots of wedges and slit symbols. I like to have the counter's edges meet at the bottom, but it doesn't have a set beginning. Glue the small slit tab and a few nearby wedges to the letter, lining them up along the edge. Then you can either glue a few tabs at a time or add a bit of glue directly to the letter and press them in place. If you don't mind a little extra glue on the inside of the box, the second way might be a little bit easier. Just do what works best for you. Keep gluing the counter's wedges along the edge until you meet the beginning. Glue the adjacent tabs together to complete the counter. Now for the outer edge. The small piece with 3 tabs will line up at the slightly flat section at the bottom. Place glue on its blank tab and line that up with the flat edge. A circle tab will be on the left and the triangle on the right. Take the piece with a circle on one end and a square on the other. Glue the adjacent circle tabs and then work your way around the edge just like the other curves. When you get to the top, add the next piece using the square tabs and keep going around the curve. This is another spot you might want to add glue directly to the letter instead of just the wedges. Glue the adjacent triangle tabs at the bottom and the box top is done. Assemble the box bottom using the same steps. Remember to keep your little flat section at the bottom and take your time. Now for the O accents. The letter-shaped accents are easy to glue on. Just make sure you line up the flat sections with the box. For the outer edge, glue the accent rectangle to the bottom flat section. Then take the 2 matching long accents, one of which has a tab. Use the tab to glue the 2 pieces together. The spot where they join will go at the top edge of the box where it won't be easily visible. Glue the long accent along the outer edge, and it's done. And follow the steps for the bottom accents. All right, now let's do the letter S. Gather the pieces for the top of the S and fold all creases just like the other letters. Place the top S shape face down. The bottom of the letter is slightly flat, so make sure that's at the bottom. The S starts just like the O. Take the smallest tabbed piece with a triangle, circle, and a blank tab. Add glue to the blank tab and place it on the bottom straight edge of the S. Now glue the wedges along the small curve, 1 or 2 tabs at a time, working upward towards the circle. Glue that tab so the edge lines up with the letter's corner. We'll complete the sides at this spot in a bit. Take the long piece with a triangle on one edge and a square on the other end. Match the triangle tab to the first piece that we attached and glue it in place. Curve the piece along the spine of the S, gluing the wedges down in your preferred method. Since the curve is so long and changes directions, I like to add glue to the letter for a little extra security. The curves might take a little extra time to set, so hold them in place a bit longer than you might usually. Next, add the piece with a square and a slit, matching the square tab to the last section. Gluing the new piece's blank tab to the flat spot first is sometimes easier. Continue gluing the wedges along the next curve along the letter's top. Glue the slit tab to the last piece and keep sticking the wedges along the curves. This part gets a little tricky as the curves get tight. Bending the piece back and forth can make it more flexible. Now glue the adjacent circle tabs at the end, and you are done. And follow the same method to complete the bottom of the S. Remember, it will be facing the right way as you add the pieces. Finish the box by gluing the accent pieces in place if you wish to use them. After you've made all the other letters, the E is pretty easy to assemble, especially since there's no curves. Remember, you can visit my helpful guide at jennifermaker.com/3D paper letter tips for extra tips. And here's how my assembled letter E looks. Step 5. Get my free flower designs. Now let's look at our flower options. Remember, in step 1, I had you download design number 389, which has a whole bunch of awesome paper flower designs in it. So go ahead and upload that SVG file to Cricut Design Space. Here's what my floral letter designs look like on my canvas. You can zoom out to see the full design. To do this, click on the minus sign on the lower left side of the screen. The flower on the top left is my Gerber daisy. It's a rolled design that uses a quilling tool. The flower on the top right is my paper gardenia, which also uses a quilling tool. The middle designs are from my Paper Flowers for Letters project. The left one is my rolled paper rose. The top one is a carnation, and then the layered paper rose, and then a dahlia. I've also made some new leaf designs, which you can use in lots of different combinations. Now decide which flowers, leaves, or other decorations you'd like to use and make some notes. It's a good idea to cut a few extra just in case. I'll show you how to duplicate, resize, and adjust the color on a few flowers. Then you can make your own versions. First, click Ungroup at the top of the Layers panel so we can work with each design. Then click the eye icons next to the flowers that you don't need to hide them. That's much less to keep track of, right? And here's the secret about my daisy design. To make the inner part a different color, we'll actually cut 2 copies of the flower in different colors. The original tutorial will show you how to combine them afterward, if you wish. To get more than 1 copy of the daisy, you can duplicate it. First, click the flower or select all of its pieces using a bounding box. Then, click Duplicate above the Layers panel. Repeat as many times as you like. If we cut the designs now, both daisies would use the same color, but we want those cool two-tone daisies. So select the design or specific layer that you want to change. Then click the color box at the top and select the new color that you would like. Now, varying your flower sizes is easy and it makes a big difference. I'll make my daisies a little bit bigger. First, select the flowers or their layers. Click and drag the resize icon until you're happy. Or you can just type a new dimension in the width field in the top menu. Either way, make sure the lock icon is closed to maintain the proportions. And don't make them so big that they take over your letter or too small to assemble. For more tips, see my tutorial on resizing SVGs at jennifermaker.com/resizesvg. So here's how my canvas looks after making all the adjustments that I want to my flowers. Yours may look very different, and that's okay. Once you're happy with the changes, click Make It. If you're prompted, click on Mat and continue. You should see several mats of different colors on the Prepare screen. They will vary depending on the number of flowers, colors, and paper size. Click Continue. Under Set Base Material, select Medium Cardstock 80 pound, change the pressure to More, and click Remember Material Settings, if you're using the same weight of paper for each mat like I am, of course. Again, you can try using cardstock for intricate cuts if your machine cuts differently than mine. Make sure your Cricut standard fine point blade and clamp B is clean. Step 6. Cut and assemble the flowers. Place your first mat's cardstock on a green standard grip machine mat. use a brayer to adhere it well. Load the mat and press the flashing button to begin cutting. When the cut is finished, unload the mat, flip it over, and roll it back to release the cardstock. Place the cut pieces for each flower together so you don't get them confused. Cut the rest of the mats using the colors on the screen for reference. For detailed instructions on assembling the various flowers, visit the original tutorials at jennifermaker.com/paperflowers. Here are my finished decorations. I'll test these out on the R to decide how many flowers and leaves I need for the rest of the letters. Step 7. Decorate the letters. This is the fun part. It's time to decorate. First, let's add the paper flowers to the letter R. Gather your letters, decorations, glues, and notes. Also put down some butcher paper or scrap paper to protect your surface from the glue gun. I found it helpful to lay out my flowers and leaves to see how everything looked before gluing them in place. Since I want to display the rose project on a shelf and be able to open them up also, I'm only going to add flowers to the top of the box. If you want the letter to sit flat on a table, don't let the decorations extend past the bottom edge or else they'll be all wobbly and stuff, right? So once you're good with your plan, use hot glue to secure the decorations. And here is my finished letter R. Once I tested my layout on the R, I cut enough flowers and leaves for the rest of the letters and decorated them to match. Now I'm going to show you how to turn the letter S into a bouquet. For this version, you just need the bottom box piece, so don't cut out the top or the accents. Assemble the letter and gather your silk flowers, floral foam, and tools. And of course, you can do this with paper flowers, but I'm going to demonstrate silk flowers for this one. First, we'll cut the foam to size. As with any sharp knife, be sure to take safety precautions and cut away from yourself. Measure 1 1/4 inches from the top and draw a line on the long side of the brick. Then cut along the line using the floral foam knife. Then, cut pieces of foam to fit inside the bottom of your letter. The pieces do not have to be a tight fit. Just fill in the letter as best you can. It's just like a puzzle. Next, use hot glue to attach the foam pieces to the bottom of the letter. I found it easiest to work one at a time. Take a piece out, add some hot glue to its back, and then gently push the foam back into the letter. It does not have to be perfect. Now to secure the flowers. Cut their stems about 1 inch or 2 below the base, like this. Play with the layout until you're happy, and then push the stems into the foam. Super easy. Isn't this fun? It's so cool. I love it. If the foam is still visible, add some small flowers or glue on some leaves to cover it all up. These letters make great gifts, but I've also had a lot of fun matching them for my own decor. They fit perfectly on a shelf, and I've hung a few of them up by hot glue by looping some ribbon to the back, just like this. And after some practice, the 3D paper letter techniques will be super easy, I promise. Then you can get really fancy. I mounted this version in a frame with the recipient's name at the bottom in vinyl. I can't wait to see it hanging up. And speaking of vinyl, you could add a name to the front of the letter itself. Just add it before you assemble the pieces. These letters also look great with pattern cardstock, or you can add some ribbon for movement. I would love to see your ideas. Now, if you have any questions about making the DIY floral letters that didn't get answered here, or anything else craft related that I might be able to help you with, please let me know. I love to help. Just leave your question below this video or ask over at my Cricut Crafters group at jennifermaker.com/cricketcrafters. And that's it for today. Until next time, this is Jennifer Maker reminding you to craft a life you love.